Good afternoon, everyone. We are back looking at some of the weirder, wackiest transfer rumours on the internet. And by we are back, I mean me and the trusty iPad. Let's get straight into it. The first one that we've read from Bild in Germany is talking about Erling Haaland to Bayern Munich. And the reason being is that future CEO Oliver Kahn has said that this move is unimaginable because nobody can pay the 100 million euros for Haaland. And honestly, firstly, I think it's going to cost more than 100 million. But secondly, his agent Mino Raiola seems to have a different opinion on this. So Dortmund have come out and said, we are not selling him this summer. It is not happening. However, the direct quote from Mino Raiola is, the official stance of Dortmund is this, like he said, this was from a few days ago, but I've got another view. I think that if a good opportunity comes up and everyone will be happy, we'll put it on the table. So when anyone talks about a transfer move for Erling Haaland, it looks as though it's not really down to the club. It will just be down to whether or not Mino Raiola can get his way. Of course, so many clubs around Europe would be absolutely delighted to bring in someone like Erling Haaland. And he's kind of worth the money. I know it's going to be difficult, and what I think will happen this summer is quite a few teams will end up selling some players first to get the money together to then go and buy Haaland if they wanted to. But yeah, as for whether he's going to go to Bayern Munich, this one I don't think is going to happen. And basically it's because of Robert Lewandowski. The thing is, any transfer that puts Lewandowski and Haaland in the same team, a team which only has the tactical positioning for one striker, is terrible. You are not leaving Lewandowski or Haaland on the bench. Neither of them will accept being on the bench. And when it comes to Lewandowski, we can safely assume that he's got probably 2, 3, maybe even more years left at the top of the game. By that time, Haaland will have moved on from Dortmund and he would have been at a direct rival of Bayern Munich. Someone like Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, whoever. So I don't think that one's going to happen. He may leave, but it's definitely not to Bayern Munich. Next up is another striker, actually, and it's Tammy Abraham to West Ham. This comes from the Metro and a few other sources in England. Rather interesting deal. So apparently West Ham think that it's going to cost too much money to bring in Tammy Abraham on a permanent basis, so they could go for a loan deal next season. And this one I can see making sense. It gets a thumbs up from me for 3 reasons. Firstly, from West Ham's point of view, they need a goal scorer. They did sell Sebastian Haller in the January transfer window, and they have managed to score quite a few goals since then as they fight for the Champions League places. But when you look at their top goal scorers, they've got 3 players on 9. One of them is Thomas Souček, a central midfielder. Probably not best to rely on your midfielder to bang in the goals. Second is Michail Antonio, also with 9 goals. Again, bit of a versatile player, has more often than not played up front for West Ham, but isn't exactly what you call prolific. And the third person on 9 goals to West Ham and their joint top goal scorer is Jesse Lingard, who actually doesn't even belong to them, and for all intents and purposes is heading back to Manchester United in the summer after his loan deal ends. Beyond them, it's Jared Bowen with 8 goals and then some defenders with 2 or 3. That doesn't exactly bode well for West Ham. They're in a good run of form. They're finding their way to games, to win games for sure. That's great. But in the long run, they're going to need a goal scorer. So on the other side of this, Tammy Abraham is not playing for Chelsea. It's clear at the moment that the likes of Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, even Olivier Giroud are all trusted ahead of him, and he's not getting many minutes under new manager Thomas Tuchel. So Chelsea can get rid of him. Getting rid of him on a loan gets him game time, but they also don't lose someone who could turn out to be brilliant. Maybe this time next year, Abraham would have had a fantastic season with West Ham. Who knows? Maybe Tuchel would have been fed up with Timo Werner missing loads of chances and decided he wants to get rid of him. And Chelsea having a young English prospect come through the academy into the first team, it's always quite good to hang on to them because they often can be worth quite a bit in the future. And then, yeah, as for Abraham, he just gets to play a lot more football, score a lot more goals because he is a brilliant striker. This one I can see happening, even if it's not to West Ham, a loan move somewhere. Next up is a rather big one, and there are so many names linked with this player, and of course it's Eduardo Camavinga. In fact, earlier this week in the Daily News, I spoke about his potential move from Rennes to a whole host of clubs. The specific rumour on that day was to Barcelona, but of course Real Madrid are involved as well. Fellow Frenchman Zinedine Zidane is of course manager at Real Madrid and is apparently a big fan of Camavinga. His agent is Jonathan Barnett. Now, you may remember that name. He's the agent of Gareth Bale, so he knows a thing or two about intense transfer standoffs, and he also knows a thing or two about dealing with Real Madrid. So maybe that puts them in pole position. The reason I think Camavinga is going to move this summer is because he has said he will not be signing a new contract at Rennes, which expires next summer in 2022. There is no way that the club can face losing such a prospect who could bring in so much money on a free transfer next summer. So it's more than likely they'll be be selling him this summer for whatever they can get. I still think they get a fairly decent price for him because he is a very good player. But yeah, according to his agent, he's got a load of options. All the top clubs in Europe. Swimming in offers was the actual phrase that he used. Swimming in offers. I can't see him going anywhere and starting Camavinga. Not because he hasn't got the quality, because I think he does, but there are other top quality players in these positions. Next season things may change, of course, but he's going to have to battle, let's say he goes to Bayern, right? Starting ahead of Kimmich or Goretzka. That is a tough ask. The same thing in the Real Madrid midfield with Kroos, Modric, Casemiro, De Jong, Pedri and Busquets of Barcelona. So many other players. It'll be so difficult for him to break in, which I think shouldn't be an issue because he's so young, that he's still got time to develop. Having thought about it, the fact that Modric is, getting well into his mid-30s, maybe Real Madrid is a good option. I think wherever he goes, he's going to be fantastic. And this is there's a good chance of this happening this summer. Next up, a slightly lesser known one coming from Hertha BSC and Matheus Cunha, who has been linked with Leeds United. This one will be a good signing for Leeds. He's a very exciting attacking player and I think would fit in well with Marcelo Bielsa's system. But for Hertha, this would be a nightmare. They were very close to relegation. A few good wins have seen them edge just away from the relegation spots in the Bundesliga. But for a club that pumped in so much money to not see a return on it, it's a bit of a nightmare. And he is their most valuable player at the moment. 8 goals and 8 assists this season for Hertha. That would be pretty difficult to replace, even though they are throwing a lot of money at it. Like I mentioned before, they could get a fair bit of money for him. And I think he would fit in quite well. A very dynamic attacking player, can play in various positions, not too dissimilar to some of the players that Leeds got at the moment. And especially if you think the likes of Rafinha could be leaving Leeds. There's been quite a bit of transfer talk about him not being at the club next season. Maybe Cunha could actually be a pretty good replacement. He could also be a good replacement further forward in the central striking position to rival someone like Patrick Bamford. So this one is a maybe from me. I'm giving it a 50-50 chance. Next up, we have, this one's pretty ridiculous. Coming from the Mirror, Marcos Llorente to Manchester United. Llorente has been brilliant at Atletico Madrid, so it's only natural there is a big money move touted for him this summer, and it's also only natural that Manchester United are the ones linked with him. Whether or not Paul Pogba stays, it looks as though they will need another midfielder alongside him, and a box-to-box midfielder like Llorente would be brilliant, but I think they're going to go for a defensive midfielder instead. As Llorente is someone who they don't 100% definitely need, not in that position. I think he'd be brilliant for United and whichever team he signed for. I don't think they're going to go and spend the majority of their budget, apparently 60 to 80 million euros, on someone they don't 100% need. They'd probably put that money towards Sancho or someone else. As to whether he leave, no. So it's not going to happen anyway. Ridiculous rumour. Llorente is very happy in Madrid. He loves Madrid so much that when it came time to leaving Real Madrid, he decided to swap for Atletico Madrid. He's got a deal until 2024 there, and reports are suggesting that Diego Simeone will, well, the club will be offering Llorente a new contract after a fantastic season this year. So yeah, I think he's going to stay at Atletico. And the last one is a rather interesting one. We couldn't talk about transfers without talking about Jose Mourinho. Of course, he is taking over Roma this summer. I cannot wait to see what happens next year. And so there have been so many rumours about who is going to be his first signing, but one of them is Kurt Zuma, someone who I actually feel is very harsh done by. Not only has he scored quite a few goals for Chelsea this season, he was really good under Lampard. And in fact, Jose Mourinho gave him his start all those years ago when he was in charge at Chelsea and was one of the few bright lights in what was a poor final season for Mourinho in West London. Yeah, like I said this season, Zuma's been really good. And since Tuchel's come in, he's preferred more often than not Antonio Rudiger, who's also actually been very good as well. There's obviously Thiago Silva, as Pelicueta sometimes makes up a back 3-2. Zuma has played quite recently, but probably because of fitness and rotating the squad, and obviously he's had a lot of Champions League games Tuchel to contend with for the whole squad, and the final took 4-2, as well as the balancing act of making it to an FA Cup final and racing for the top 4. So yeah, with Zuma not getting as much game time, maybe he could be tempted to move to Roma. They've got quite a few players there, but the likes of Fazio are certainly on their way out at an older age. This one I could actually see happening if they stump up enough money. That's the thing, Chelsea have a perfectly good player in Zuma and they won't want to let him go so easily. So they have to get a pretty decent bid. But if Roma can scrape together the money and if Mourinho's serious about it, not only could I see it happening, but I could see it being a very, very good deal for Zuma. So there you have it, some weird and wacky transfer rumours from around the internet and online in the past few days. But you guys let me know your thoughts down below, who you think would be a good deal and who you think is an absolute rubbish rumour. Let me know your thoughts, check out everything else we've got going on, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.